Today I'm on the shores of the beautiful Sea of Galilee at Magdala, and I get to visit an archaeological dig. I'm very excited about that. Plus, we get to meet an expert on synagogues. That's all coming up on First Century Foundations. Have you ever been to an actual archaeological dig? I haven't, and that's why I'm really looking forward to this next part of our show. We get to talk to the head archaeologist here at Magdala, and she's going to show us some very, very neat things about what they're doing with the dig today with regard to the timing of this community, whether or not it was just a first century community. They suspect that maybe there was more here. And so that's very intriguing to me. She's also going to tell us, why archaeology is important to us as believers. And I think that you're going to be interested in what she has to say. And then a little later, I get to speak with an expert on synagogues who's going to talk to us about, how maybe synagogues in Jesus' time have impacted some of the way we do things today in our faith communities. But the most exciting part of that conversation is that he's going to tell us about a very, very cool stone that was found here at the Magdala Synagogue. And I'll give you a hint. It's not the really ornate one, the Magdala stone that Father Kelly talked about on our show previously. It's another one. And so you're going to be really interested to find out what that's all about. So don't go away. We'll be back with that next on First Century Foundations.
Up next, Jeff studies archaeology in the ruins of Magdala. First Century Foundations is continuing to bless the land of Israel. And this is all possible because of people like you. With your help, we have been able to support local ministries within Israel who are caring for some of the nation's most needy by providing food and clothing for the poor, and much more. The House of Light is one such ministry that not only ministers in prisons, but also runs a summer camp for children.
We're in the middle of this camp and all the noise of the children around us, rejoicing in the Lord and in your help, and we just want to say thank you.
This is all possible because of your prayers and support. Call or write today and become a monthly partner for just $30 a month or more. And be sure to ask for your free Israel Prayer Watch so you can be up to date on all that is happening with these ministries in the Holy Land. We are waiting to hear from you.
Hey, welcome back to First Century Foundations. We are at an exciting spot today. This is the site of Magdala.
Yes.
And there's so many amazing things here. I'm with Dr. Marcela.
Yes.
And you are the head archaeologist here right at the moment.
Yeah.
And so first of all, let me ask you this. How does Marcela get to be an archaeologist? What brought you here?
I dream all my life to be archaeologist. My mom gave me 2 books when I was very, very young.
Okay.
About Egypt, how Howard Carter discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun.
Okay.
And the other book about the Bible and archaeology.
You are living the dream.
Yeah.
You're living the dream. That's
Yes.
awesome. And so you excavated this whole area over here,
Yes.
where the mikvaot are. We are going to be looking at that. Yeah. So tell me what's happening here today. You've got an exciting bit of activity going on here. A group in from Oslo, I believe.
From Oslo and for the Oslo University and Lund University.
Okay.
Lund University. And this is the first day for this season, and we want to check in different areas.
Yes.
How deep is the wall? Because this area was deep before in 2011, And 2012, for the rest of the years, until now, we don't touch this area. And we need to know, and the both university and these people help us to know how deep is the wall, and if we have floors or we have another occupation more deep than the level that we are standing now. This is the objective of this season in this area, but also we have the idea, if we have time and enough people, to cleaning the one of the area that is in the east.
Okay.
To know more about how the people live in this area.
You've seen some exciting things uncovered here.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. Yeah. So this area where we're standing, this is your first day back working here after a number of years. And what, from what you know, what is the dating of these ruins?
In this area we have a 1st century. The most of the material is coins, pottery, and glass for the first century.
Wow.
But in the analysis that we do in this year, Andrea is our archaeologist that is a specialist in coins.
Okay.
She started to see some coins in different points from the 2nd century.
Okay.
It's meaning that this area they use in the 1st century, and for some reason they leave and they back in the 2nd century.
Okay. So
and we have a reoccupation, not in all of the area, but in some rooms we have evidence for the 2nd century, but we need to know and to compare the coins with the pottery.
So now, Marcela, when you talk about the dating, that we have 1st century here, but possibly 2nd century as well, and that, you know, the people moved away and maybe they've come back.
Yes.
So that really would coincide then with 70 AD when the Romans came and basically drove the Jews out of these areas. Is that right?
Yes, it's all right. We have the evidence that the people who live in Magdala left Magdala in 66, 67 for the revolt with the Romans, and some people try to push to the Romans to don't go directly to Jerusalem to destroy the temple. And but the people start to move and take his own things that for they have some value, and they move it slowly. They have the time to move it to the south, and to Magdala was abandoned in 67, 68. But we have one moment without occupation in Magdala, but it's short. Because in the 2nd century, when the Romans destroyed the temple, the Jews and the Christians, the first Christians, back to Galilee and reuse or make some reoccupation in some areas. This is kind of evidence that we think we have with the coins and with the pottery from the 2nd century in some rooms.
That's exciting. And so what's happening here today, they're trying to really determine whether or not that's actually the case.
This is very important. The work that they do and help us is very important, because this area give for us small information, or not all, or not too much information when we dig in before.
Right.
And we need to know more.
Well, thank you so much. Today is the very first time I've actually been on a live dig. So thanks for having us. This is amazing. And I want to ask you one more thing. You know, we bring groups of people to Israel, to the land. We visit lots of sites like this. As an archaeologist, you know, why is it so important for Christians, for believers to come and see these things?
I think it's important for two things. One, because we are in the excavated of the 1st century, and we know for the Gospels that Jesus walking around to all of the towns around the lake, And he also speak and be in touch with the people in the synagogues,
Right.
in all of the synagogues around the lake. And we don't have the evidence, the fact. For example, I don't have a jar or a stone that say Jesus was here.
Right.
But we know about the gospel that Jesus walking around the lake and teaching in the synagogue. And this town is one of these spots that Jesus walking in this moment. And also it's important because we are digging in a new holy place. And not all the people have the opportunity to know how is the archaeology work. Usually when you visit some archaeological site, you see just the monuments or the walls of the street and you're walking around.
Yeah.
But you see the place when the archaeologists finish and when the restorer finish and everything with the sign, everything is finished. Reconstruction and everything.
Yeah.
But this area, the people who visit us have the opportunity to touch and to know more about how is the work for the archaeologists and how is start to grow to have the pottery in the hands and everything. And I think this is very exciting for us and for the people who visit Magdala.
So these pieces of pottery, these are first century.
First century.
Wow. First century piece of pottery right here. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you know, to you, our viewers, I would say, you know, this is one of the sites, as Marcela has mentioned, where you don't just come and see a lot of plaques and a lot of sort of reconstructed stuff. You're actually seeing it happen live. And you know, it is amazing. And one of the things we commented on about Magdala is that it's such an open site that you really can see in, even over at the synagogue, even though you can't walk in. It's very open, very much the way it was found almost. And we just have really appreciated being able to be here.
I think this is important also, and it refers that you say is people for the 21 this century that this in the present,
yes,
to touch the past and to know more about the history from the Holy Land and from the people who live in Magdala, is to put in contact the present with the past.
That's amazing. So come to the Holy Land and put the past and the present in contact together. You come with us here. I promise we'll bring you to this site. This is one of the sites that we're going to be putting on our tours going forward. Visit our website, firstcenturyfoundations.com, and check out Tours for Israel. And you can come with us. We'd love to have you here. Thanks so much for being with us today. And Marcela, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, Jeff learns more about the ruins of the synagogue at Magdala and discovers that there is a second Magdala stone. Jerusalem, the holy city, is the focus of much of the world's attention. And Psalm 122 tells us to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Yet do we really know why, or even how? Why does God want us to specifically pray for the peace of this ancient city? And how do you pray for a city that for most of us seems so foreign and so far away? Praying for the Peace of Jerusalem, the new book by Jeff Futers, now reveals God's purpose for the holy city and all of Israel, and why he wants every believer to pray for his holy land. Now more than ever, the people of Israel need our prayers and support. And when you order your copy of the book Praying for the Peace of Jerusalem for just $10 plus shipping and handling, you are also helping these precious people in a very real way. Call the number on your screen now, or go online to firstcenturyfoundations.com and order Praying for the Peace of Jerusalem, and begin to pray for Israel with understanding and purpose.
Welcome back to First Century Foundations. I'm here today at Magdala in the region of Galilee, Israel, and I'm with Professor Anders Runesson. And Anders, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Now,
I'm happy to be here.
I know that you are Swedish born, but you actually have spent some time in Canada, right?
That's right. I taught at McMaster University for 12 years.
McMaster University.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. And we're here, you know, in front of the synagogue at Magdala, but you kind of wrote the book on synagogues, didn't you?
Yeah, a couple of them, yes.
A couple of them.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right,
right.
Yeah. Has been one of my great interests, so yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm an evangelical Christian. A lot of our viewers are you know, evangelicals as well. Why should synagogues matter to us?
Right, that's a very good question, and I think there are many reasons why synagogues are really interesting for both Christians and Jews, both today and from an historical perspective, but also today for understanding scriptures, for example. So, as a Christian, you would know that the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all of them, talks about Jesus' teaching in synagogues.
Yeah, that's right.
And really proclaiming the kingdom of God in that setting. So to understand what the kingdom of God is, or what Jesus meant it to be, then you really need to know something about the context in which he proclaimed that message, which is then often the synagogues.
So in your writing, you've come across, obviously, some significant things that help us not only understand what synagogues were, but how they relate to sort of our faith and how the roots of that shaped who we are today.
Yeah, that's certainly the case, I think, and one has to be sort of careful when you reconstruct synagogues and reconstruct the setting in which Jesus was moving around, so that you don't sort of transpose your own ideas into antiquity. But the interesting thing with looking at antiquity and trying to understand Jesus as an historical figure actually walking the earth, walking the Galilee and walking synagogues like this one, is that you get to understand something of who he was for other people. And then we can learn something from that also today, I think.
Awesome. What are some of the things that you know, we would recognize in our faith cultures today that that you would tell us actually come directly out of, you know, your study of the synagogue?
So yeah, I wouldn't maybe use the word directly, because there's sort of an historical reconstruction that we have to take into account, and history is very rarely linear. It can go this way and that way, and finally we end up where we are.
Right.
So we have a...
That's why he's the expert.
Right.
Right? Right. Okay.
So what we have is a very interesting situation. So if we talk about first century synagogue, and this is the first century synagogue, they were of the kind where those synagogues where Jesus taught, they were kind of a public institution. You can think about a city hall, a municipal institution, taking care of issues that concern the community in a certain place, like a small town, a city, or something like that. And then you would have this institution there. You would have officials running the institution. And the only difference from today is that we have city halls, but we don't include religious activities in those city halls, right?
Oh, God forbid.
So, right. So that's a very different situation.
Yeah.
Right. But in Jesus' time, they combined these things. They didn't separate between religion and social issues, political issues, economic issues. Everything was tied together into a whole. Even education, right? So it was all part of a whole.
Okay.
So, and the synagogue was sort of the central institution for a lot of that. It had judicial function, it had communal functions, you have archives were kept there, and so we have a very rich institution. And so if you think about Jesus preaching in synagogues, for example, in Matthew's Gospel or in John, John says, all my teaching was done openly in the synagogues and in the temple. These are all public institutions. He didn't hide anything. He wasn't sectarian. He was out there in the open. He talked to the people.
Okay. And so really, he brought his teaching about the kingdom, as you mentioned, to literally to the community where the community gathered.
That's absolutely right. And there's a big difference between that way of approaching people and being more sectarian, as we have, for example, in the Qumran community, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Some of the Dead Sea Scrolls would be examples of a sectarian community that withdrew from society and sort of, as a secluded group, took care of their own sort of salvation, if you will. Whereas Jesus went the other way around. He went out to the people in these public settings, and for example, the Pharisees did the same thing as Jesus did. They were also out there talking to people, trying to convince them why they should follow their teaching and not go in any other direction.
So from that perspective of Jesus teaching in the community, there was a very significant find at this synagogue here at Magdala that you want to talk to us about.
Right. Yeah, I can't deny that because it's really exciting. So many people, if we look at the synagogue here, many people are really interested in the stone back there, which I think you have seen on the show before.
They call it the Magdala stone.
The Magdala stone is even called the Magdala stone, and it represents sort of a three-dimensional temple, the Jerusalem temple, in sort of a miniature of sorts. But there is more than one Magdala stone. There's also another type of stone, which is not as interesting to many people because it doesn't have all the imagery around.
It's not as ornate. It's not as pretty.
That's right. So we have a different type of stone. But the interesting thing is where it was found and exactly how it looks. And that can reveal to us, perhaps, how teaching was done in the time of Jesus, in the first century. Do you want to take a closer look at the stone, and I can tell you a little bit more about it?
Sure, let's do that.
All right. So if we look back here, we see a smaller room in this direction. The main hall is in there. The so-called Magdala stone, which I like to call the temple stone, just to distinguish between these stones. It's in there in the main hall. It's a beautiful piece. Here, in this separate adjacent room, we have benches too. We have benches lining all the walls, and in the exact center of that sort of additional adjacent room, we have this stone, which I like to call a reading stone. That's not its official name. But I will explain that.
And that's exactly where it was found.
That's exactly where it was found. And as you can see, there is sort of a stone frame around it, which means it's focused. You have it's the piece, the furniture of the room. That is the focal point of the room, is that stone. And so if we look closely, you can see that there are two grooves on either side.
I see that,
Yes, right. And so the theory goes that those two grooves fit precisely and very nicely a Torah scroll. Because if you have a Torah scroll, you have two handles, and you have to scroll back and forth as you read and as you teach. So if you imagine someone sitting just by that frame, which is actually quite comfortable. I tried it once before they put up the fence. And you have the scroll in a very good height, facing the audience. So you have people sitting there on the sides and on the sides, on this end too. So I would say that little piece of furniture is maybe one of the most interesting finds when it comes to understanding education in the first century, in the time of Jesus.
That's amazing. Anders, thank you so much for being with us today. And you've certainly given us a lot to think about, certainly given me a lot to think about. And I just appreciate so much you taking the time with us. I know that you're here actually with a group of students, and they're helping over at the dig today. But we got you a little bit of a break out of the hot sun.
That's right. It's very welcome.
You are welcome. You are welcome. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for being with us today. And don't go away. We'll have more after this.
First Century Foundations has been making a difference in the lives of some of Israel's most needy for years. And you have been a vital part of this important work. Because of your gifts, we have been able to support the believers in the Holy Land, who every day are sharing the love of God with the elderly, Holocaust survivors, refugees, underprivileged children, and everyone in need from all backgrounds and walks of life. This practical approach of feeding the hungry, clothing the poor, and visiting the sick is making a real difference in many lives throughout the land of Israel. Call or write today and become a monthly partner for just $30 a month or more, and begin to make a real difference in the lives of Israel's most needy. And when you call, be sure to ask for the free Israel Prayer Watch, so you will be up to date on all that is happening with the ministries that you are supporting. We're waiting to hear from you.
Thanks for tuning into the show today. For those of you who maybe just tuned in for the first time, it's a privilege for me to be able to stand here and talk to you from this incredible place in the land of Israel, or maybe you watch every week. The privilege is no less. It's just incredible to be able to be involved in a ministry like this, where I can talk to you every week about the amazing things that we see and learn here in the land of Israel. Today's show was no different. I got to be on an archaeological dig today. It was fantastic. Now, I didn't get my hands right down in the dirt, but it was incredible to be able to talk to Marcela and hear her passion for her work. And there's someone who, God gave her a dream in her heart when she was just a kid, and she's fulfilling that dream today. Anders is another person who, is following his heart when it comes to helping to educate students about the land of Israel and about Jewish and Christian relations through understanding the synagogues of ancient times and all the way up till today. I got to tell you, I'm not really the expert on Israel, but I'm learning every day as we get together, here on the screen. I'm learning as well as you. And so I want to just encourage you, continue to watch and think about ways that you can bless the land of Israel. I don't do this so that I can be on TV. I do it because I love this land and because I believe that the Jewish people have a destiny in God's economy and in God's kingdom. There are many, many ministries that are reaching out to the Jewish people here in the land of Israel. And I believe that we need to reach out to the Jewish people here. We also need to reach out to those people where we live as well, with the love and the compassion, the understanding of Jesus. And I want to encourage you in your communities, in your sphere of influence, don't forget to consider the Jewish people in all that you do as well. We thank you for your partnership with us here on First Century Foundations. We look forward to many, many opportunities to speak to you in the future. Thanks for being with us today. God bless you. Tune in next time on First Century Foundations.
Thank you for watching. To learn more about this program and the ministries in Israel that we help, or to receive the Israel Prayer Watch, call the number on the screen or visit us online at firstcenturyfoundations.com. And to keep up to date on all that we're doing, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Join Jeff Futers again in Israel next week on First Century Foundations.